Hello. Today I will be returning to the Fletcher, and this time featuring a game mode that doesn't really favor the Fletcher that much, which is the standard battle. Now, I often complain about standard battles myself. I don't enjoy this game mode because it's so camping heavy, and a valid tactic in standard battles is simply base camping, and you don't even get punished for doing it, but it can in fact be a completely valid tactic, which is one of the reasons I highly dislike this mode, because playing aggressive in this mode usually gets you killed. So, especially on a USDD, you have to show quite a lot of patience in this mode, because USDDs of course are excellent knife fighters and they are excellent point contesting ships, meaning in domination mode they are the first ones into a cap and they can usually bully out the enemy ship and they can take control of the cap from there. In standard battles, however, there are no set cap points to push into, there are no set paths to go to, so you kind of have this free-for-all, and it can be quite hard for the average player to really know where you want to be pushing, where you want to be playing. Now, the enemy has 3 DDs, and Fletcher torps are of course only 10 km. So ultimately, I don't actually want to just charge in and pop a smoke somewhere. I want to be able to get my torps in on a good target first. And in general, you see the New Orleans over there and the Atlanta, both are radar ships. So I want to keep a certain distance to those two ships so I don't get ambushed or caught in my radar and those two pop up, caught in my smoke, sorry, I smoke up somewhere, those two push up with their radar and I'm toast. So my first goal right now is trying to find a good target to torp, and of course constantly keeping an eye out on my surroundings. I see a battleship that's about to cross. It looks like they're all pushing to the right hand side, as you can see, so this North Carolina has a fairly predictable path that he'll be sailing, as does this Nagato. I doubt he will actually keep pushing in, he's probably going to turn hard right. But the bigger threat is obviously North Carolina, bigger threat to my team that is. So I'm gonna see if I can get some torps in on him first. Oh, their Fletcher killed out Leningrad, not exactly the best possible start. Yeah, that's a bit... Usually I recommend getting closer to torp, but with this Nagata this close, all these DDs around me, all these radar ships, it gets a bit risky honestly. I just want to get my first volley of torps out and I want to move back. The torp cooldown, well, it's fairly good on the Fletcher, but you still want to get it out as quickly as possible, because the longer you wait, the less effective you'll be. In a standard battle where you can't really maximize your efficiency by going for cap points, you kind of have to maximize your efficiency by getting torps out very quickly. Oh, our Bliska died to Friedrich the Grosse, so we're down 2 DDs, which isn't exactly the best start. But now I know where the DDs are on the map, and I know that the New Orleans and Atlanta aren't close enough to really pose a threat. So this is where I finally decide it's time to pop my first smoke and start going to work on the guns. I also let my torps travel for a fair amount of time before I did pop the smoke, because I didn't want them to start changing course when they saw my smoke. I only managed to get 1 hit on the North Carolina, but honestly it was as good as I could ask at this range. The Nagata damage con, spammed some HE on him, he forced his damage con. I don't have vision on the North Carolina. The North Carolina has of course used his repair, and the primary reason for popping this smoke was of course to be able to shoot him. Oh, he's finally visible, there he is, and that's the guy of course I want to get a fire on, because he's the one I hit with the torp. As I often mention, you want to stack your dot effects. In this case, I force a flooding with torpedoes, which forces the repair, and then I follow it up with HE damage. So he is definitively my prime target right now, and I got my first fire, hoping to get a second one. I also got some torps out. It looks like he's turning in though, so I'm not certain how good these torps are going to be. I think I'm gonna clip him with 1. Might even clip him with more. Of course, Fletcher torps, as I mentioned, are excellent. And oh, that's a very close Atlanta. The torps finish off the North Carolina, so the goal I went for, the goal I chose right at the start, the primary target, I managed to finish him off, which is quite good for our team. We're still down quite a few ships. Now I picked the Atlanta here as my primary target, because he's one of the main targets I want to get rid of, mostly because of his radar. But this position is getting pretty risky with this many enemy ships this close by, so I'm gonna start bailing out. And I'm telling my team to defend base, because obviously they are going to be rushing our base. So I'm just straight up bailing at this point. This is not worth the risk. This position, I don't have enough backup around me if they decide to rush me, so I just need to get out of here right now. Oh, detected. And one of the Fletchers were actually rushing me, but I kept a fairly good track of when my smoke was about to fade, so I managed to get out of the smoke and I didn't get caught flat-footed sitting still. So we kind of catch each other at a fairly even time. I don't have much support, but most of his ships are behind islands as well, so he doesn't have much support. So this is just a straight up gun battle, which he decides to disengage from, and honestly I have no interest in chasing him either. I'll happily disengage as well and get away from here, because regardless of whatever perceived skill advantage I might have over him, at that close range it's mostly just a DPM battle, and it's fairly easy to hit the shells, so there's quite a little skill involved, and we're going to be trading fairly evenly. And I don't want to be trading fairly evenly with another T9 Fletcher, because looking at the amount of ships we have already lost, I'm pretty sure I will be forced to carry this game. I already getting these vibes from the game, so going down to 1k just to kill a Fletcher is not worth it in my book. Now you can already see they're starting to push into our base, but on the flip side we're also contesting their base. So this is forcing their team to split up, because a part of them wants to keep pushing, another part of them wants to disengage and go defend base. That's perfectly fine for me, because it makes defending base a lot easier since I don't have to deal with the full force coming in. Having Superintendent of course shows here I still have 3 smokes available, which is incredibly important when it comes to defending base, because the ability to smoke up and just constantly reset caps and force people out of caps is quite important in standard battles. And of course smoking up, you kind of want to be a bit more careful with your smokes in standard battles than you do in domination, because in domination there are fairly straight up battle lines and you have a fairly good idea of where enemy ships are, because if they whenever they go somewhere they will usually be capping that point as well. But in standard battles you have to keep a constant eye on the minimap and try to keep a track of where you've seen ships last and which way they were heading, so you have an idea of what's coming your way. Turpits. He's moving my way. Now these are torps, as I mentioned in my Shimakaze commentary. The same rules apply in this commentary as in the Shimakaze commentary, that launching torps straight at the target, coming straight at you isn't very good, especially at long ranges like this one is. I find it unlikely those torps are going to hit. In fact I wanted to torp the Tashkent, because I waited to see where his shells were coming from, but it took so long I decided to torp the Turpits after all. Those torps are not really intended to actually kill him or even hit him. I mean, if they hit him, that's great, but I'm not counting on it. It's more to discourage him from pushing in, because I need to deal with this Tashkent first. And I only really have a Colorado and a very hesitant looking North Carolina with me, whereas they have the Turpits and the Friedrich der Grosse pushing in. This Tashkent smoke is about to fade, which is exactly what I'm waiting for. And it fades. There we go, Tashkent is up, and I instantly pick a fight with him. I actually managed to get a hit on the Turpits, surprisingly considering the angle, but then again, Fletcher torps are quite stealthy, which is of course one of the advantages, so I'll happily take that. I have no interest in smoking up until he starts turning away and starts shooting. There we go, he both turned away and started shooting, which is exactly what I wanted, so this is where I decide to smoke up to minimize the damage I take and hopefully kill him, and then I will quickly switch over to the Turpit, since once again I have forced a damage con. You saw I got a flooding on this Turpit, so getting any fires that I get on him now will stick. My torps are up again, which is great, but as I mentioned in the earlier Fletcher commentary, one of your main tools on the Fletcher is absolutely your guns, and you should at no point treat this as a pure... It's neither a pure gunboat like the Russian deities, nor is it a pure torpedo boat like many of the IGN deities. It is a hybrid, and that means your damage should always consist of both gunfire and torpedo power, which is why you see me constantly using both to my advantage. I try to synergize it. I cause a flooding, that means time to smoke, that means time to start fires. Wow, that random gap in those torps. Is it gonna fit? Yeah, wow, he fits right through with these. But I got a bunch of fires on him, he can't repair them, and honestly, I'm just gonna keep hammering him. Of course, at this point I'm getting ready to move, because if he does have the detection module, then he's gonna spot me within 3 km. Yeah, he does have it, so his proximity spotting me within 3 km. So I'm instantly moving now. I wanted to see if he had it. If he didn't have it, he would only have spotted me at 2 km, but because he does have it, he spots me that close. But that's perfectly okay with me, he's gonna die anyway. He shouldn't have time to do too much damage. The Friede de Grosse is of course an issue now, because he is spotting me. But I'm gonna try to put the smoke. The smoke is still gonna be active for some time. I'm gonna try to put the smoke between me and him, while at the same time gaining distance from him. And of course, once I'm behind the smoke, I can shoot at him. And even though he does have hydro, because I'm not actually in the smoke, he can't spot me. And I can just use the smoke as a pretty much a temporary mountain that I can hide behind. So even hydro cannot spot him now, but a random spotting plane can spot me, which is unfortunate and something I did not take into account. It does happen, and not much I can do about it. I'm just gonna keep kite and keep maintaining my distance and hoping my torps will get some hits on him. Of course, secondaries on Bismarck and above, Friede de Grosse, Gross Korfors, the secondaries are extremely strong on all of them. But my predictionary torps seem quite good. Once again, you see, I am pretty much launching torps every cooldown, but I'm also trying to use my guns as much as possible all the time. It's this kind of work you want to be doing continuously on the Fletcher. Guns blazing at all times, torps launching every cooldown. Very little downtime in between them. And now I'm of course showcasing one of the most important tools of the Fletcher, which especially the later you get into the game and the less ships there are around, the stronger this tool becomes. And that is of course stealth firing. That means I fire from outside of my detection range, even when firing. Of course, firing increases your detection range by default, but on some ships, especially DDs, you tend to be able to fire from outside of your detection range, which is called stealth firing. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. I'm not even smoking up or anything, I'm simply undetected because my stealth range is 9.6 km, so as long as I shoot from outside of 9.6 km, I cannot be spotted and I can still rain down HE on him. I think I'm about to get spotted here, but I smoke up to prevent that. I save my smoke for the longest possible duration. The North Carolina that is with me, in case you guys haven't noticed, is sadly shooting HE, which doesn't really make him that useful, but I believe I can pretty much melt this guy myself, because once again the DPM on these guns is extremely strong. And when I talk about playing smart, it's kind of this is what I mean. Trying to utilize every single strength, every single advantage that your ship type offers to your advantage. In this case, delaying the smoke for as long as possible, just hammering him from range, and we've managed to turn it, which looked like quite a almost lost game, have managed to turn it into a 2 versus 1. Sadly, I cannot really count much on this North Carolina that I have with me, because he keeps shooting HE at everything, which isn't exactly encouraging. He's exceptionally good at stealing my kills with those HE volleys though, but his actual efficiency is questionable. Another issue is that he has no HP left, and neither do I. I'm gonna see if that spotter plane comes around again, I'm gonna pop defensive AA to quickly snipe it down. That's of course one of the reasons why I highly recommend defensive AA. Not just for defending against carriers, but you can quickly use it for bursts, like here. I pop defensive AA, I instantly shoot down the plane and get rid of it. And that's one of the great things about using defensive AA, even with no carrier around. Especially when you're trying to sneak around, you're trying to hide behind obstacles, you're trying to stealth fire, any of those. Having that instant button, turn on AA, pop defensive AA, snipe a plane down, then turn it off again to avoid unnecessary detection. That's one of the reasons I highly recommend it, even if you don't find yourself facing carriers. It's just a fantastic tool, and usually much more useful than the speed boost. You can do without the speed boost, but it's quite hard to quickly get rid of spotter planes without having that additional bonus you get from defensive AA. Someone is telling us we should stay together, but I don't really believe in that, because I have a huge concealment advantage over the Pensacola. So it's better that I go out there and scout the Pensacola for the North Carolina, and hopefully he can delete him. But once again, I don't really trust in that too much because this guy keeps shooting HE instead of shooting AP. But as I spoke earlier with playing smart, one of the advantage the Pensacola isn't that stealthy, which means of course I can stealth fire at him. Of course, hitting cruisers from stealth fire can be quite challenging, especially for new players. You see how much of a lead I have to take to actually land these volleys, and it's not the easiest volleys to land in general. But even with a terrible accuracy, I am dealing damage without receiving any damage in return, and I'm in fact not even risking any damage in return because I am shooting from outside of my detection range as usual. You can see the blue circle, it expands when I shoot because there's someone who could potentially see me, but because of the stealth he's outside of that. So as long as I maintain this 10.6 km distance, I am able to take him on from stealth. North Carolina looks like he wants to go and pick a fight with him. And not exactly needed, since I could probably take this guy on alone quite easily. But, I mean, North Carolina with a single AP volley could delete this Pensacola. But once again, as mentioned before, this guy for some reason keeps shooting HE. You'd think people would have learned by T8, but these days I've simply come to accept that there's a lot of players who never actually have learned any of the basics or the mechanics of the game, even while moving up in the tiers. So constant stealth fire on him, remembering to maintain my 10.2 km distance. Whenever it looks like I'm getting too close, I slow down a bit, in case he does some sudden maneuvers into me. But other than that, I'm just gonna keep hammering him. And of course the Pensacola expresses his frustration at my tactic for tier 9 DD, that is some push shit. And you should take that as a compliment. You should you shouldn't be bullied or coerced into making some stupid aggressive move to prove him wrong. No, if a cruiser that's basically designed to counter you tells you you're doing some push shit while you're killing him, straight up beating him, you should take it as a compliment, which is exactly what I'm doing here. And I just say sorry for playing smart and winning, which is exactly what I'm doing here. Playing smart, taking zero risks, and whittling him down. You saw he used his repair on fire earlier, and I got a second fire on him, so that fire is gonna stick, it's gonna be a permanent one, and I'm just gonna keep hammering him with this. Why take a risk? Why would I take any unnecessary risk? That's a second fire on him, so that's 2 fires he can't repair. He's already dead at this point. I've already won this. Someone is saying AP for fuck's sake. Our North Carolina friend is still shooting HE, but seeing his kill stealing antics earlier, he's probably gonna take this kill from me as well. Yes, no surprise there, he managed to take that one. So the HE spamming North Carolina managed to take 3 kills. Oh well, regardless, 187,000 damage, not that special, but it was mostly about how this game was played. You notice I only actually landed 6 torps this game, so very little torpedo hits, but the constant balance of powers which comes from the Fletcher's strength, which is about 80,000 gun damage, about 30,000 fires on top, 110k of my damage comes from fires, and then we have some gun power, and then we have some torpedo damage. Don't let others dictate how you play the ship, play it to its strengths and not to its weaknesses.